I am Brock with Keep Alberta Rolling, and I am here with Edmon Rotea, who is a producer on the runaway hit Skinamarink, made for $15,000 in Edmonton, in the filmmaker Kyle Edward Ball's house with a filmmaker group of friends. We're going to hear all about it. Welcome to the Zoom.
Great. Thank you so much, Brock, and hello, Keep Rolling Alberta viewers. It's an honor and privilege to be speaking with you today.
So tell me a little bit about how did this Skinamarink story come about? How did you and Kyle get connected?
Oh, it's a very long story, but don't worry, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of events. 2020, that was a time when a lot of people started being creative. Like I remember that time when people were becoming musicians and giving free webcam concerts from their living rooms and kitchens, or people were making sourdough bread. What did Kyle want to do? He's like, oh, well, I wanted to do my lifelong goal is to write and direct and make a feature length film so I can prove to my friends and family that I can write and direct a feature length film. And yeah, he first told me and another friend. We were sitting, we had a dinner at Boston Pizza in downtown Edmonton, and about his goal of making a horror movie. And I was like, right on, let me know if you need help. I'll help you any way I can.
Awesome. And you guys were friends before? Like you guys go way back, or you how did you guys know each other? What's your relationship?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've known Kyle, gosh, at least 6 or maybe 7 years, maybe longer than that. I lose track of time. But I first met him, he was working at a camera store. So VizTech Edmonton, well, I wanted to give them a shout out because they always give me discounts. But I'm one of those people who has a nose for value. I was browsing the clearance section, and I remember meeting Kyle. He was a video sales consultant at the camera store. And even though the items were already marked down for clearance, I would still ask him for a discount. And eventually, yeah, after pestering him for discounts, um, we got on the subject of horror movies, and it's something that we bonded over. And it's pretty funny because I would buy stuff because back then I would buy a lot of camera gear, and I would talk about horror movies, and I'd be at the store like for maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe even more until the store closed. And I would visit the store every now and then because I started befriending a few other people, including my friend Gerardo and Connor and Dante. I just want to give a shout out to them as well because they're still really good friends of mine. And yeah, I would visit the store just to talk to Kyle and the other guys who I befriended about horror movies. And so yeah, I've known Kyle for a while, and even when he was done his shift at the camera store, sometimes I would walk him like home because he lived nearby, and we would talk about horror movies even more.
That's awesome. And so you in 2020 you put some money in a pot. Not this was made for 15 grand. So nano budget filmmaking. Proving the parents you could do it. The What happened then? What happened? How did you get into pre-production and into shooting? And how did the kind of story form? Was it this was Kyle's idea and baby, and he wrote the script, or did you work as a group, or how did that kind of go?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, yeah, that's a great question because how did the his idea come about in pre-production, and especially funding? Everyone wants to know about money. So yeah, Kyle had always wanted to do prior to Skinamarink, Kyle was cutting his teeth and honing his craft on these no budget shorts, which you can all watch on YouTube. His YouTube channel is Bite Sized Nightmares, and he has been maintaining that channel since 2017, I think. He has a few dozen shorts on there. That kind of led up to the style that you'll see in Skinamarink. And what happened is he would do short films on people's nightmares. So what happened is on Reddit, there's like a subreddit for bite-sized nightmares where people would talk about a nightmare. So if they were afraid of an object, like a doll or yeah, some other event, and then based on that person's nightmare, Kyle would make a short film, about 3 minutes in length. There may be longer films, and he did make a film called Heck that came out in 2018. It's I think 18 or maybe 20, a little over 20 minutes, and that was actually the kind of precursor or prototype to Skinamarink. And he always wanted to make a longer version of Heck. And the whole idea behind Skinamarink is kind of this um, fear, recurring nightmare when he was a kid and he was alone at night, um, afraid of the dark, a fear of ghosts, a fear of um, empty spaces, whether it's a hallway or basements, childhood fears. And of course, it was COVID. So a lot of people were experiencing issues of being isolated, being lonely, being trapped in their homes. Uh, a lot of people found themselves spending a lot more time at home for the first time in many years rather than being out and about and socializing. So I imagine the just kind of the COVID pandemic mood at the time also contributed to the writing of Skinamarink. So yeah, Kyle started writing his script in the fall of 2020, and but we did run into funding issues because this started out as an experimental art film, and he Kyle did apply to a few of the arts councils, but um, yeah, we tried to apply as call this a supernatural thriller, but it was clearly a horror movie, and arts councils aren't really known to fund horror movies. Maybe they have. I just don't know about them. Yeah, and there's other funding that we applied for, but we weren't successful. We were very fortunate to receive a grant from the Alberta Media Production Industries Association, a development grant for $500. So we did receive a grant, but we did have trouble securing funding, and we decided to go the crowdfunding route as a last resort through a crowdfunding website devoted to TV and film projects called Seed and Spar. And so we had a campaign that started in June 2021, where we literally approached friends and family member to give us money, and of course members of the local Edmonton film community. And Kyle actually emailed a few of his instructors at NATE. Kyle graduated in 2014 from the NATE Digital Media Information Technology, or they call it DMIT, Digital Cinema program. So he emailed a lot of his instructors and said, "Hey, I'm trying to make my first feature film. Can you give me money?" And some of them were very generous. Some of them gave several $100, and and a few of his instructors included such notable Edmonton established veteran filmmakers like Dylan Pierce, the king of 3D and romantic comedies in Alberta. So thank you, Dylan, and second generation veteran documentary filmmaker Ava Carminen. So thank you, Ava, and Emmy award-winning documentary filmmaker Michael Jorgensen. So thank you, Michael. And there's probably a few other people whose names I can't remember. So I'm sorry to those people, but thank you, and by the end of the campaign we raised about $8,455. So about $8,500. So and then it's valued at 15,000 US, because what happened is we received a lot of in-kind donation of equipment. So a lot of like all of the camera gear and all of the lighting gear, that was, and all of the equipment used to make Skinamarink was provided by the Film and Video Arts Society of Alberta, FAVA, and that's because the DOP who worked on Skinamarink, Jamie McRae, he's a great friend of Kyle, and he happens to work at the equipment department at FAVA, and he's like, yeah, hey, I can borrow all the equipment and use it. And yeah, so if we were to rent all that equipment, yeah, we put a price tag on that, and every prop that you see in Skinamarink, from all the Lego toys to the CRT TV and VHS cassette deck and countless other props, that was all from friends and family, and
Mm.
that's how we were able to keep um, but within budget. Everything was borrowed, everything was donated. We had to make best use of each and every dollar. There's a lot of Lego in the movie. We have a good friend who lent us all of his Lego, and there's I wish I could show you a photo right now. There's one photo where it's someone from the cast, and the floor is all covered in Lego. But other than that, I heard it went smoothly, and yeah, like there wasn't any major problems or delays. But of course, I wasn't on set, but I'm sure the cast and crew have a lot of stories to tell.
Sure. Well, we'll have to interview them as well.
For
So
sure.
so tell me about the response to the film and how or actually
Sure.
let's go to it opened in Fantasia and got a distribution deal at some point around that time. Take us through the timeline up to I guess to the theatrical release.
Okay, great. Yeah. So, after um, the principal photography wrapped up in August, Kyle um, put his pedal to the metal and did all the post-production editing, color grading, sound mixing, hunched over his $1,200 gaming laptop. Um, so yeah, very simple editing setup. Put in a lot of time and effort. And yeah, we, yeah, we're Kyle looked into various film festivals, and he was really keen on submitting to Fantasia. And I think what really helped out is we there's this one distributor, Mutiny Pictures, and a gentleman named Jonathan Barkin, um, who liked the trailer on Reddit for Skinamarink. And so Kyle reached out to this distributor, this Jonathan Barkin, who's now a named executive producer for Skinamarink. He's known as the Skinamarink executive producer in Hollywood media right now. And he served, I was reading in another CNBC article that came out earlier this week that he served as a jury member for the Fantasia International Film Festival. And for your viewers who are unfamiliar with Fantasia, Fantasia is the biggest genre horror film festival, at least in the Western world. I think the only other bigger festival is one in South Korea. And so Kyle was very keen to submit, and I think Jonathan was able to put in a good word to the festival programmers and organizers that, hey, check out this film. And yeah, not only did Kyle was able to secure a distributor, Muni Pictures, which later got bought out by another company, Bayview Entertainment, but Kyle was able to get into Fantasia, and or Skinamarink was able to get into Fantasia, and the Skinamarink had its world premiere on July 25th last summer. And after Fantasia, the film later toured several countries in Europe in the fall of 2021, including Italy, Norway, United Kingdom, in Wales, and Spain, and everything was going great until the Spanish Film Festival. I can't recall their name, and I don't want to throw their name out there. But what happened is they were having a streaming at home, um, where people could watch the movies at home. But unfortunately, their third provider, there was some sort of technical glitch, and the films from the third party provider got leaked, including Skinamarink. And so, first week of 2022 was very stressful because Skinamarink is leaked. You could literally type Skinamarink on YouTube and find a very good quality stream, and or you can find it on a lot of file sharing and BitTorrent websites. We have a friend who has a Plex server, and he could check all the aggregators, and there were dozens, possibly hundreds of servers and file sharing sites and BitTorrents that with SKINAMARINK. And Kyle started to get worried because he thought that would have jeopardized the distribution agreement. Because what happened shortly after Fantasia in July 25th of last year, that gave the Mutiny Pictures more leverage to negotiate and sell the film, or not sell the film, but license the film to AMC networks. So the makers of The Walking Dead and Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Mad Men. And the broadcast deal with AMC networks for streaming on Shudder and theatrical distribution through IFC Films, that was actually secured way back in the summer of 2022, because a lot of people on the internet, especially social media, thought that that distribution broadcast deal was secured after the film was pirated and after it went viral, but it's actually the opposite. But what happened, because the film went viral on TikTok, with TikTok users proclaiming that it was the scariest, most traumatizing, disturbing film that they had ever seen in their whole entire lives. And then later going viral on other social media platforms like Reddit and Twitter and YouTube. Um, it bumped up the release date of the film, because Skinamarink was supposed to be released on streaming for Halloween 2023 on Shudder, and it was probably going to get a limited theatrical release of a handful of theaters, just to promote the film and to give it more clout and legitimacy. But AMC Networks, through their distribution theatrical arm, IFC Films, decided to bump it up to well, Friday the 13th, January 2023. So an entire 9 months earlier um, than the original release date of Halloween 2023. And yeah, it started out with a handful of theaters, and then it ballooned to about, well, 809 theaters last week at its peak. And what's really amazing is, even though Skinamarink is supposed to be streaming on Shudder um, February 2nd, next week, there are still movie theaters that are still showing it um, after February 2nd. In Edmonton, our local art house Repertoire Theater has two screenings this week, and then another two screenings in the first week of February. And we've heard of other movie theaters who are still showing the film, even though it's already going to be on Shudder and AMC Plus. And I just heard recently that it will be opening in theaters in Poland, um, starting in mid-February. So it's pretty crazy that there's still theatrical demand, but I guess we also live in this new reality where, even though a movie is streaming at home on the big services like Netflix, um, there's still a simultaneous release where it's still being shown in theaters. So we're grateful for the demand, and yeah, that's pretty much the story of the theatrical and distribution so far. We're looking forward to seeing if demand jumps, especially on streaming, if more people will watch it.
The response online has been uh electric. It's been a lot of fans that are really excited about this. Horror podcast fans. Talk a little bit about the marketing and how this has kind of been adopted by it's kind of cult hit kind of online chatter on TikTok and Twitter and other platforms. How is that? How did that come to be? Is that just from the screenings? Is that what's going on with that?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Like, I think the film was doing really well at festivals. So when we went to the Fantasia Film Festival, that's a festival that's attended by very devout, hardcore, serious genre horror fans. and we were playing in a smaller theater that I think the maximum was about 100, seats. There was probably about 80 to 100 people, and we had a Q&A because both me and Kyle were present, and we weren't sure how many people would stay because there have been a lot of screenings where they have a Q&A and then lots of people start leaving for whatever reason. But we were really surprised when most people stayed behind, and we got a lot of questions, a steady flow of questions, and we're like, oh wow, these people are pretty hardcore and serious. And then we got a lot of great responses, people telling us it was the scariest movie they've ever seen, and people were like, wow, that's really different. I've never seen anything like this. And yeah, it toured through, as I mentioned, it toured through Europe, where Kyle, um, Skinnamarink won Best Feature Film at the this horror film festival in Turin, Italy, the TO Horror Film Festival, Best Feature Film Award. And Kyle, who's of Norwegian descent, when the film premiered in Norway, it actually sold out. So that was our first sold out crowd. I'm not sure how big that theater was, but they had to add like more seats just to accommodate demand. And I'm not sure how well it did in the other um, festivals. There's one in Wales, and there was one later on in Saskatoon, and one in Buffalo, or somewhere in New York State. I'm sure they did well. But yeah, right after the film was leaked from that Spanish film festival, it was heavily pirated, and we were, really worried, but at the same time flattered that you know hundreds of people would pirate Skinamarink. And yeah, it wasn't until we started seeing this phenomenon on TikTok, people started posting about the movie, and then it spread like wildfire. Um, and I think it really resonated with the the Gen Z audiences. So people born after 1998, who they're digital natives. So what I mean by that is they've never known life without the internet, and they grew up with all this internet folklore like Slender Man and creepy pasta and Five Nights at Freddy's, and of course urban exploration videos of abandoned buildings. Yeah, and all this. There's this term that I learned very recently, analog horror, and yeah, um, it started spreading like wildfire on later on Reddit and Twitter, and people started posting um, reviews and reaction videos and um, video essays about Skinamarink on YouTube. I can barely keep up with all of this stuff. I would need to have a full-time job just to keep up with all the social media. And so yeah, so far the reaction was amazing. Like people were demanding to see the film because before it got pirated and leaked, the only way you could see the film was if you happened to live, um, or if you're able to travel to these select handful of film festivals. And we started seeing questions: when will it be released? When will it be available on streaming? And um, so I can understand why a lot of people pirated Skinnamarink because they weren't aware. We had a non-disclosure agreement too, where we couldn't reveal the AMC Network's Shutter broadcast deal until uh, early December. But the reaction has been very strong. People have loved the film. It's also been very polarized. Like there are people who don't understand the film, or they think it's too slow and boring. And um, I also think that it's also like generational because I took my 77-year-old father to the sold out Edmonton premiere. He didn't understand the film at all. He actually fell asleep and slept through most of the film.
Yeah,
And he's like,
and
"Yeah, I didn't
papers of
really
his own.
get it, and I didn't see their faces, and they didn't really talk much, and there wasn't much action. I didn't get it." And then I talked to someone who's maybe in their late teens and 20s, and they love the film. They were hooked at every minute, and They had trouble sleeping at night. Well, hopefully, Skinamarink didn't cause like extreme sleep deprivation and insomnia. And if it did, I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, reviews have been really polarized so far, but they also seem pretty positive. Right now, we're trending at, as of this moment right now, or as of the recording of this interview, we're trending so far at 72% on Rotten Tomatoes with 87 critic reviews. We've had great reviews from the mainstream press, especially New York Times critic pick, and pretty good reviews in other publications like Rolling Stone and Variety and other well-known um, film critics. So yeah, response has been incredibly strong, and um, people are looking forward to the eventual Shutter streaming release. And it will also be available on video demand on February 10th as well.
That's awesome. I mean, I guess people should watch it before they ban it if it's causing people sleep deprivation. They're gonna,
Yeah.
the government's gonna come down and ban this thing. It's a health concern. The so the movie obviously financially has done well as well. It's a huge success on the business end of things. I don't know for sure that it's the most successful indie horror movie that ever came out of Alberta, but I think so.
Yeah, I
As
would
far
like
as
to
I can
think
remember.
so too. Like I know maybe if you look at it for like the ratio of how much money was spent to how much you made at the box office, probably a really good return on investment. Yeah, I'm not sure of other like I know there's been lots of films made in Alberta, and but there's not a lot of Canadian made films that like they do well at festivals, but they never get a wide theatrical release. But we're very happy that this $15,000 um, Canadian, some sources say $15,000 US. Um, I was just checking Box Office Mojo, and as of the January 22nd is when the numbers are reported. So far, the film has made over 1.5 million US, and when you consider the current exchange rate, that's over $2 million Canadian. So we're very pleased, and we look forward to seeing the box office earnings for this past week, Monday to Friday, and this weekend, because movie theaters are still showing it this weekend and next week, and even into February. So we're hoping to cross the $2 million US threshold. But we're grateful that this small Edmonton-made film, filmed at a guy's childhood home, um, was when we premiered on opening weekend. We placed number 11 on the U.S. box office returns. We were on the same category as movies like Avatar 2, also by Canadian director. Of course, we weren't able to dethrone James Cameron and Avatar 2 at the box office, but hey, that movie was made for a lot more money. So yeah, it's done really well at the box office, and we're hoping that people will still watch the movie in theaters, and that they'll sign up for a Shutter AMC Plus subscription. Just a reminder to reviewers, if you're not a Shutter AMC Plus subscriber, you can get a 7-day free trial, so you can watch Skinamarink for free. But of course, people have been doing that since he was pirated last November.
Fair enough. Yeah, well,
So
it's a legal way to do it for free. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, and yeah, like Edmund said, check out Skinamarink on Shutter February 2nd, or at local listings. It's still playing in theaters next couple weekends, so check out Skinamarink.
thank you so much, Brock, and keep Alberta rolling, viewers. Hope you enjoy the film. See you at the movies.